welcome back if you're new here. I am Steph, and today we are going to make my homemade vegan butter recipe. I never actually thought I'd be making a vegan butter recipe because in the US, vegan butter is very easily accessible. It is not too expensive, but I'm here in Taiwan now, and it is really hard to find, to say the least. I have been able to find one brand of vegan butter, but it is in a tub form, and it's about $17 per tub. So at that price, I knew I was gonna have to find a recipe that I could use for all my baked goods. And so I went to the internet, I started testing recipes. There was nothing necessarily wrong with any of the recipes. All of them were pretty good, but some of them were, better for spreading than for baking. There are some that I tested that worked well in cakes, but when I tried to make the accompanying buttercream frosting, it didn't hold up. And I just wanted one recipe that I can use in everything, so I started making some tweaks, testing some things, and this is the recipe I came up with. I have tested this vegan butter in cakes, in frosting, in brownies, pie crusts, English muffins, a lot of different recipes, and it has worked every time. So I thought it's about time that I share this recipe with everyone else. It is a very easy recipe, so let's just get right into it. Okay, so I'm starting with 1/3 of a cup of raw cashews here. These have already been soaked to make them softer, and I'm just gonna add these to my blender along with 1/3 of a cup of water to make a nice cashew cream. Depending on your blender, it could take a few minutes to blend, so don't stop blending until everything is totally smooth. Next, I'm just gonna measure out 1/3 of a cup of the cashew cream, and then I will pop that in the freezer for 20 minutes or so to get it a little bit colder. This is gonna help later to keep the oil and the water that's in the cashew cream from separating. Once it's cool to the touch, I will add it back to my blender along with all my other ingredients. I've got a cup of refined coconut oil here that I melted on really, really low heat, and then I allowed it to cool for a bit. Next, I've got a 1/4 cup of sunflower oil. This has also been chilled in the refrigerator. I am adding a teaspoon of apple cider vinegar, 2 teaspoons of vegan soy lecithin granules, and 1/2 teaspoon of salt. And I'm just gonna let that blend up until everything is well combined. You wanna be careful not to let it blend for too long because your blender can start to add some heat, which can cause your oil and water not to bind together or emulsify. If that does happen, you can just put your mixture in the freezer for 10 or 20 minutes and try again. So for my molds, I have these oblong silicone molds that I got at a baking supply store, and I'm just gonna pour my mixture right in. You could also use some small food storage containers if that's more accessible to you, but you might wanna line them with some parchment paper to make the butter easier to pull out later. And then I will just put these in the refrigerator for 2 to 3 hours or until they're firm. And my butter is nice and firm now, so I will just loosen up the edges of my mold here and then pop it out onto my parchment paper. You could keep this butter in the refrigerator for a week or 2, or you can keep it in the freezer for a few months. Just wrap it up in some parchment and put it in a freezer bag or storage container. And that's it. You can use this for baking, and you can see that it spreads really nicely too. Alright, well that's gonna do it for this one, but in my next couple of videos I am gonna use this vegan butter to make some vegan buttercream frosting and vanilla cupcakes. So if you're a fan of cake, I definitely recommend you try these cupcakes. They're soft, they're moist, they are as delicious, if not more, than any conventional cupcake I have had. But for today, thank you so much for being here with me, and I can't wait to eat some cake with you. See you next time.